This is a very special show. This is a very funny gentleman I'm about to bring to the stage here. Him and I have known each other for many years. He is a funny comedian. He is an inspirational corporate speaker. He also has invented a new children's property toy. Something like that. Beantown Pals. Beantown Pals, children's property. They're all toys. They're on the website. They're great. You're going to love them. Please welcome Tom Hayes. Sorry, Tom.
You did it. This is it. Prepare for aggravation. That should be on the front door of my house. Prepare for aggravation. How are you guys doing, all right? So I asked Billy, I said, I got to tell a story. I said, I'm not going to do my usual stand. I got to tell a story. So I live in South Boston. Familiar with South Boston? Yeah. A lot of famous people in South Boston. Whitey. Very famous right now. But we all know South Boston. Goodwill Hunting. Right, Gone Baby Gone, the Mystic River, the Departed. Was it Departed? Was it? Yes, great. So anyway, I live right in. I'm very fortunate. I live right on the water. There's the Castle Island. We're familiar with Castle Island? Okay. Now, do you know what happened this year with Castle Island in the whole area? This was the year 2012. Was the celebration of the War of. Come on, folks. 1812. Very good. History buffs. All right, great. So they did this thing called the turnaround, right, where they bring the Constitution out and they celebrate and they do the salute. But this year we had what? Come to Boston. See, we're in Chelmsford, so nobody knows. Okay. Once you get past Burlington, it's over, right? The tall ships. All right. Okay. So I'm going to give you these clues as we go along. Well. A few years ago, Steve Sweeney, very famous comedian in Boston. Familiar with Steve Sweeney? Round of applause a little if you know Steve. Okay. So he had a radio show in Boston at the Prudential Center, ran for a few years, and one of my buddies, Joe Yannetti, was his writer, another great comedian in Boston. And so they invited me on the show. Now, it was during the summertime. And so it's kind of fun because the best part about comedy, of course, is spontaneity. So you don't really clue each other or tip each other off what we're going to talk about. So I got a few things prepared, and so it takes place at like 6:30 in the morning. It was in the middle of July, just after the whole tall ship thing, so I show up on the show, and all I tell them, they said, Tom, you give us a clue. What are you going to talk about? I said, well, let's just put it this way. I just want you to ask me when I get here how was the commute? That's all. So. So we start right away. Hey, this is the morning show with Steve Sweeney here in Boston, and we're very fortunate to have Tom Hayes, comedian, in our studios this morning. Tom, how you doing this morning? I said, well, it's pretty good. I said, it's kind of unusual for me at 6:30 in the morning, and I says, and we're on the 45th floor of the Prudential. I says, I'm not used to being this high this early in the morning. So thank you for getting that. That was great. So now they said to me, so Tom, hey, how was your commute in? Now, I lied because I was already in Boston, but I made up this story. I said, it was a great ride. I said, I came in over the Mystic River Bridge and Tobin Bridge, and I says, I looked out over the harbor, beautiful this time of year. The sun's like nice and high this early in the morning. I see the sailboats, it looks great. And I says, I'm so psyched. I says, because the tall ships are in. And they all looked at me and they go, Tom, the tall ships was last year. I said, oh man, you mean I missed it? So thank you for getting that part. So they said, I said, well, you better tell them. I says, they forgot one. And they go, no, that's the Constitution, Tom. They didn't forget one. I said, oh, that's right. I said, last week, which was the 4th of July, Joe Yannetti, and I said, yeah, Joe, our writer. I said, right. We got in my boat. We went over we knew they were going to do the turnaround. I said, we were all excited. So we went over to Charlestown we with the Coast Guard and the police boats and the fire boats and all the dignitaries. I says, nice little ride coming up the harbor. I says, we get close to South Boston, Castle Island, in typical South Boston. I says, they get territorial, and they open fire on the Constitution. Now, that would be the part where they're doing the 21-gun salute. I don't know if you know about this. That was planned, okay? So, thank you. A few people got it. And so I was hoping that day. They thought it was funny. So they said... I said, in typical, and they were prepared. I says, they had guys in these they pulled out guys that were retired. They had colonial outfits, they had muskets, they had the cannons on the top of the fort, they had new cannons. I said, these guys were prepared. They weren't going to mess around. They were going to take down the Constitution. I says, the Constitution's got no choice but to what? Fire back. I says, it was unbelievable. So Joey and I are stuck in this little boat. We're in the middle of a war. So it went over a lot better that day than it is here right now. So let's go to 2012. So they bring the tall ships back, right? And in addition to the tall ships, they brought what? Are you familiar? Oh, they brought the Blue Angels. Okay. Now this is right across the street from where I live. So I never have experienced the Blue Angel. And if you've ever seen an F-14, they are big and they are fast. And it's like, whoa! And I'm watching them, and there's like 8 of them. And they're, whoa! And they're cruising around the city, and I'm looking, and I'm going, oh my God, as they're going by the Peru and the downtown, I go, if these guys let go a couple of missiles, I mean, Boston's like, whoa! So very intimidating. So that night, to celebrate, it's 4th of July, I go to the store and I buy a rack of ribs. On sale, $10. It was like usually $20. I get them, I marinate them all day long. Now, this year, for the first time ever, and South Boston's changing because of all the gentrification and everything else, a lot of the traditional families have gone. But this year, for the first time, there's kids and they're playing. Have you ever seen these electronic Jeeps? They're about this big. And there's 3 kids riding around the Jeep. And all they do is patrol this one block. And I'm thinking, well, South Boston's getting ready again. They got the militia out. They're training these kids early. And so it looks like something out of Peanuts, the little characters, Charlie Brown. And they're like, and they won't stop. They just keep going. They're like they're on a mission, So this day, I come out and I've got a little Weber and I'm going to cook my barbecue my ribs, and so I put the fluid on. I put them in. Whoa! I got flames this high. Around the corner comes the Jeep. 2 kids in the front, little girl and a little boy, and a kid in the back. Now I finally figure out the order, the ranking. The kid in the back is looks at himself as the general. He's the commanding officer. Again, I found out he owns it. He doesn't driving. Evidently, he's figured he's not old enough to drive because he's only about 4 or 5. But either that or he's just, he's got 2 people who do this dirty work for him. So he hollers, halt. And immediately it comes to, and off he comes in general fashion, looks at me and says, what are you going to burn? Now notice the word burn, not cook, all right? What are you going to burn? And I don't know why the comedic mind works the way it does, but it did. And I looked him right in the eye, 5-year-old kid, and I said, a witch. So now I got things, so now the eyes get about this big, and he looks at me and he says, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. He goes, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. Now there's a 7-year-old girl, Caroline. She's driving. Evidently, she's appointed officer for the driving. And she gives me, as soon as I say the witch, she gives me a wink and a, okay, we got the 5-year-old going. The general's going to go down now. So he says to me, there's no such thing as witches. And I say, how old are you? He goes, I'm 5. I said, well, I hate to break the news to you. I says, but in about 10, 12 years, I said, 16, 17, I says, you're going to meet a lot of witches. Oh, relax. I says, in fact, I got one flying around my kitchen right now. I says, and she's in there throwing pots and pans around. I says, that's why I'm outside here cooking. And I says, if she's cooking soup, I ain't eating it, not tonight, because there could be poison. So he's trying to process this, and he looks at me, and he says, there's no such thing. I said, oh, yeah? I said, did you see, I said, did you ever hear about Salem? He says, yeah. I said, what do you think they were doing up in Salem a couple of 100 years ago? I said, they were burning a couple a week. I says, then the witches got smart, and all the witches went underground. I can't believe I came up with this for this kid. So I says, witches got smart, went underground, but now they're back. He goes, no, they're not. And the whole time, Caroline's giving me this. So I says, oh, yeah, did you see those jets here today? He goes, yeah. I goes, what do you think they were looking for? I said, wow. I said, Mayor Menino called them up because there's been a lot of witch sightings lately. And I says, the witches are back and the planes were here to check it out. He goes, he gives me one of these, he says, we'll be back. So he gets on, and evidently looked like he was on a mission. They're going to go back to the control headquarters and talk this over and find out if there really were witches. I go in the house. Now, this is the way this works out. I go on and I get the ribs. And yeah, thank you. I get the ribs, and I put them on. I put the cover on. Now what have I got? Smoke. Just pouring out of the Weber. Smoke like crazy. halt. Gets off, he says, what's under the cover? The witch. Caroline gives him another. He goes, no, she's not. He says, no, he doesn't even. Now he's accepted the fact there could be a witch, and she could be under. He says to me, let me see. I said, no, you're only 5 years old. You don't get to see the witch. It's pretty ugly. And I had, these big ribs like this. He's going, no, I want to see. Come on, I want to see the witch. All right, you asked for it. Boom. Now, Carolyn, priceless, comes in with, it's her ribs. Undaunted, he's looking at these ribs. He goes, where's the rest of her? I said, she's in the cellar. Can I see the rest of her? No. I said, now we're getting a little macabre. No, you're only 5 years old. You don't get to see them. It's pretty ugly in there. When are you going to cook the head? It's Friday. I said, Friday, come back for the head. So a few things go by. He gets on the thing, off he goes. And I think, I want to write this story down because I'm starting a blog. And I said, this is a great story. But I said, when I'm writing it, I can't remember. I says, it needs a little end. And then I also can't remember this part. I said, here, just a little thing here. Could you just give me a little, relax, it's not a sex toy, okay? That's an artificial leg. So at the age of 13, I lost my leg to osteosarcoma. And I swim every single day. I've overcome all these adversities that come with something like that. And I've lived a very rich life and had a lot of fun. So I can't remember writing a story. Did I have the leg on? Did I have the leg on? Because it was a hot summer day. So 2 weeks later, I'm swimming without the leg. I come into the house and I have a little hose there. I shower off on the sidewalk. So as I'm going in to get the hose, I see this little young general come around the corner, and he sees just the top part. He doesn't see the part. So now he likes me because I'm the witch burner. There's a lot of witch burners. Burning witches on the corner in Southie is a good thing. So he comes in and he just wants to recognize. He goes, ah! And he sees the one leg. And he goes, oh! He goes, what happened to your leg? I goes, I didn't tell you I was a pirate, did I? I says, why do you think I want to get the witch? She's the one who took the leg off. The last I saw of him, he was running toward the chief going, he says he's a pirate! And I haven't seen him since. That's my story. Thank you so much. Very gracious. He says he's a pirate!
Tom Hayes, give a round of applause! Have a seat, Tom. Well, that was, we're going to thank, we have our sponsors, Walton Alley at ERA Key Realty Services.